Hello, everybody. It's a pleasure for me to be with you in this remote way, but at least we're together this way. Let me start by congratulating you on a very good job on your SOFI. The report is commendable and hits the right note throughout. I've been asked to do a very short video, and this will be very short, on trend impact analysis. Trend impact analysis is a futures technique that permits one to introduce those elements of the future which are unique to the future, haven't happened in the past, and will influence trends in progress once they occur. So they must be expressed in terms of probability rather than reality. As you know, you built the SOFI from an index. SOFI is an index formed of 30 or so, in your case, 30 or so variables like imports, like number of internet users, like freedom level over time. And that is, in fact, the way most SOFIs are built. They are agglomerations, indexes formed by looking at a number of important variables that make up the state of living in the society that they depict. You did a good job. It worked this way. Each of those variables had data points in the past, and you used a method, a statistical method, for fitting a curve or curves to those historical data points. And then, having defined what curve was that best fit those points statistically, you ran the curves into the future, and that made your estimate of the future value of each of the variables unique. And appropriately so. A little judgment required, but nevertheless, the fit could be reviewed and selected on the basis of good fit. But what that did not do, and we recognize this since 30 years ago, did not look at those aspects of the future which were unique and would mean that trends in the past would change their direction. When we extrapolate a curve, even if we use statistical fits, we're making the assumption that those forces that were at work in the past will continue to work in the future and shape the curve as it did in the future. So these are, in fact, the curve fittings done statistically are, in fact, surprise-free forecasts. It's okay to do that, but you've got to recognize that there's a limitation. Some things in the future that will change the direction of those curves, that will lead to new views, new perceptions about technology, about how governments work, about how people live and find enjoyable. All these things change over time. It's not a matter of historical trends carrying us with momentum into a future society. It's a fact of that momentum being changed by things that we can barely understand now, or not, or things that we understand very well and can forecast with some probability for the future. So trend impact analysis asks the question, how will things that we perceive as being important to the future affect the variables that go into SOFI, and give those changes, how does SOFI change? Now, about 2 years ago, almost exactly, we had some correspondence about what developments might be included if we were going to do a trend impact analysis on the variables. I'm looking at an email that was sent out early January 2018, and we listed some 50 variables, not because we thought these were the only ones, but they're the first ones that occurred to us for your review. You should change you should look at these because they're all real, but change them to fit your view of those developments that could in the future that would affect SOFI, the State of the Future Index. I'll read some of them just to give you the level. The world has lost 3% of its arable land as a result of degradation and desertification of soil. Economic development in China and India has increased the global CO2 burden by 20%. New Islamic leaders have emerged who express historic Islamic role in science and multicultural and are given multicultural respect. Global teleeducation has improved literacy. Food wastes have been reduced by 10%. The control on content and usage of internet and social media have been imposed in most countries, and so on. The key to these events, the key to that statement of developments, is that they are verifiable in retrospect. You can answer the question, have they happened or not? Now, it's a matter of opinion about their consequence, and the way that they impact on the variables. You've got to imagine a matrix in which you have 50 events listed against the 30 variables, and you've got to say, if this event were to occur, how would it affect that variable? Would it increase it? Would it decrease it? Would it happen immediately? Would it take some time to occur? All of those describe the nature of the impact. The delay time from the occurrence event till it's felt in the variable, the amount that the impact is, how big is the shift, and does it go down from the maximum value, whatever that maximum value is, over time. In fact, at the beginning of work with trend impact analysis, we defined those impacts in terms of delay time, maximum value affected, when we reach maximum value, when we go to steady state, and what the steady state impact is, usually expressed in terms of percentage shift of the variable. Now, all of that is very difficult and tedious to put together, so the approximation today is simply, when will we reach maximum, and what will the maximum deflection be as a result of the occurrence of the event? We know we can ask experts about the probability of these events, and they will give us a range of opinions from which we can compute an average probability. So we have probabilities for the 50 events, or however many you want to include. The question is then, how do we introduce those events into the forecast of the variables? And it goes something like this. We pick an event at random. We decide whether or not that event occurs by comparing its probability to a random number. If it happens, we adjust the curves, plural. If it doesn't happen, we save it for a later time. And we step through all of the 50 events at a given time. Either they happen or they don't. We were writing a little scenario. We thought the world would look like this, and then event blank happened, and as a result our future expectation changed this way. Then when we went another 5 years or 10 years into the future, another set of events occurred or not occur, and changed our future expectations this way. That's a single scenario that's built of events occurring or not occurring, and consequently affecting the variables that we use to describe the future. Then we repeat that another time. We remember what that scenario looked like. We repeat that again, and repeat that again, and repeat that again. And we do 100 scenarios like that, or 1,000. This is a process called Monte Carlo. It's a Monte Carlo process. We're building 1,000 scenarios. And in reality, there are trillions, but we're building 1,000 scenarios. And at any point, we can look at the distribution of those scenarios. Did the events that we thought might occur happen? And what did they affect the variables? All the variables change for each of these 1,000 scenarios, or 100, or trillion scenarios. There are different values for the variables depending on the history, future history, of whether these events were seen to occur or not, or assumed to occur or not. And then we can look at a fan for each of the variables, a fan of high and low, medium, interquartile, upper quartile, median, and lower quartile for each of the variables, and we can put those variables together and form a SOFI, which also then leads to a fan, showing the probabilities over time. So what is the advantage of this? Why go to all of this trouble? Well, first of all, it forces some thought about what makes a difference in the future. Whether or not those happen or not, at least they could be thought about and become part of policy. Secondly, it gives us a quantitative feel. It makes us think quantitatively about how these events are consequential, whether they're consequential, and to what degree. And third, it gives us a very systematic way to treat the answers to those questions. And because we have a model, after all, Monte Carlo is a model, because we have a model, we can do things with it. We can ask what if questions. What if there's this invention instead of that invention? What if we make an investment here so as to change the probability of that event? How does it affect the SOFI? How does it affect our lives? How does it affect other items listed in this list of developments? It's not easy, and it involves a number of assumptions which mount up and could very well lead to criticism. Are we putting assumption on top of assumption and therefore getting away from reality? And those questions have not yet been answered. There's a lot of research yet to be done on this process, but the process we know works, has been done, and has proven to be useful. And we stand ready to help you if, in fact, you want to proceed in this way. So thank you very much for your attention. That's a brief on TIA, Trend Impact Analysis, and we wish you the best. Bye-bye.